Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Y2DRL24 playing in their Object 780, which is a rare tank inside the game, but even with this rare vehicle, Y2DRL is going to have an incredibly rare game of World of Tanks with a stonking performance that you're going to want to see through. So the Object 780 went into the game this year as the first tank that had this kind of unique style of which it was numbered depending on the order for which they were purchased. I personally got 463 because I was a sweaty nerd and I got up at something stupid like 5 AM to log in to World, well actually about 5:45 AM I think it was, to log into World of Tanks to then throw my wallet at Wargaming. I think this vehicle costs something silly. I was about like 600,000 free experience, or you could spend credits, or you could spend all of this, but I think the best thing to spend was fill up the bar with as much as you can with blueprints, and then dump the rest with free XP. And there you have it. 15,000 were available on the European server with a numbered skin. And then I think there were about, was it 25 or was it 35,000 available in addition to that without the fancy skin. So there's not that many of them about. Sure, there's probably about like 40k around the European server, but bizarrely enough, you don't even really see them playing World of Tanks all that much. You'll see a few of them in your games, and I think the people who enjoy them play them quite a lot. But it's not as if it's that popular for a vehicle which you think, considering everybody spent tons and tons and tons of currency on to be able to get, you think that they would be all over the place in those kind of numbers. And I think when it comes down to it, it's because the playstyle of this vehicle, I don't think it's all that fun. The vehicle is kind of this mixed match of incredible weaknesses with regards to the fuel tanks. Its ammo rack seems to go up quite a lot as well. Probably why Y2DRL is using the protection technology on this vehicle, of which I think he's using a bounty protection technology, which will help the fuel tanks, help the engine, and also help the ammo rack, because this thing kind of feels like it's more of a made in China tank than a vehicle inside the Soviet nation. And I think it's just a case of it's got a weak belly, only 30mm of armor there, and because the hull is actually angled slightly upwards towards the front, which makes its lower plate look really awesome. But the issue is that then any plate that hits the lower belly of this vehicle means that it's going to overmatch if it's a 91mm caliber gun, and that's pretty much most tanks on the enemy team apart from possibly the Pantera and the ELC even 90. Add to that a weak point on top, which you only need about 200mm to be able to get through, even though it's not exactly the biggest target to hit, and poor damage per minute of 2,200. And I just think the Object 780 is not really the funnest of vehicles to play. And a good thing too, because do we really need more overpowered Soviet heavy tanks in the game like the Object 279E? No. So I feel like Wargaming did a fairly good job with this tank. I think they made an exciting vehicle that was different enough that obviously, at least they sold out on the European server, that hasn't had game-breaking performance. Okay, so you've heard everything that sucks about this tank. Now let's talk about everything that's good about this tank. Well, 560 alpha damage, or is it 530 actually? I make a mistake. 530 alpha damage on this vehicle, and very good penetration on its standard rounds of 267 means that you have enough to not have to fire gold. However, Y2DRL is, should we say, pushing the tank to the limit here by putting the premium rounds on the 1 key and having the regular rounds on the 2 key. Yeah, you can do that. You can move your shells around. I do it on vehicles, for example, with derp guns, usually to move the HE to the standard shell, but that was probably back in the day and it's not so effective now. Y2DRL is inside an incredibly tricky scenario here in a low-profile Soviet tank with decent mobility. They've decided to take the turbo on this vehicle to be able to increase its speed, because its top speed is 45 with a turbo. It's going to be going up to about 50, where it kind of blurs the line between a medium tank and a heavy tank, and that allowed Y2DRL to rush the bridge and get themselves into a front position, where I think this tank is meant to be. With its 7 degrees of gun depression, it has more than enough to work the ridges, and also, as we can see, enough armor, at least when you put your gun in the way of the enemy's gold shell there, to be able to absorb some punishment. And Y2DRL is dealing with a Pantera behind them, while also slamming down 2 shots into the 60 TP in front of them, while also bouncing an ELC even 90, or at least hopefully bouncing. Can you believe it's actually the tier 8 light tank that's penning Y2 Durrell here? That's because this thing has poor side armor, while the Conqueror and the 60 TP fail to deal with them frontally. Huge result there for Y2 Durrell to be able to finish off the enemy's 2 top tier heavy tanks, now making them the only tier 10 tank left alive in this game. Even though their team is down 5 tanks and their team is also down 1,000 hit points, Y2 Durrell is absolutely smashing this game. And they're also trying to do HT15 tempered steel for the T55A with honors. And with that shot, into the Moistion, well, not the shot that actually absorbed into the ridgeline, but the shot that they managed to block, Y2 Durrell now has managed to do HT15 with honors. So all they have to do is they have to do 25% of the total damage their team dealt. And that was actually a blind fire, a weird one there. I didn't realize that tiny little shrub on that ridgeline would protect the Moistions so much from line of sight. And so that damage that Y2 Durrell did there, which we don't exactly know how much it was unless you were remembering the hit points of the Moistion and you've been able to take them away, has done an undisclosed amount of damage so far, probably about 500 against the Moistion there. Now up to 6,427 damage dealt, but their job is not done, and I love it. They've gone over the bridge. They're coming back over the bridge. They're doing everything that their team needs. And this is where it's just wiggling in this vehicle, making your armor angled, trying to stop your opponents from being able to catch those tracking shots. Y2 Durrell, deciding they fired enough gold in this game, is now going to load standard rounds against the tier 8 tanks. Thank goodness for that, otherwise this would be a filthy gold round. The Pantera actually manages to pen Y2 Durrell in the side, and Y2 Durrell is just managing to try and stop this ELC even 90 from being able to get behind them. Nearly ram kills the little French light tank, and luckily 7 degrees of gun depression over the side of this vehicle, enough to be able to depress the gun to be able to get that tiny little French light tank out the game who was harassing them. Now Y2 Durrell is over 7,000 damage into this game with 2,800 assistance. They are a one-man army right now, but oh, that's a scary tank. Skoda T56 misses the first. Okay, just keep the armor angled, but not too much. Try to make sure they don't go into your belly, and a nice ricochet of another gold round there from the Skoda T56, who chokes the shot and gets shut down. And thank goodness Y2 Durrell didn't take the damage there, because it was about a 50-50 that they would get shut down, and even if they survived a high roll from the Skoda T56, they'd make themselves very vulnerable to artillery, which actually doesn't do any damage to the back of Y2 Durrell's tank, with a quite wide missing splash. But they'd probably have about 10-15 hit points left, and that would not be enough to be able to survive any high explosive shells, not just from the artillery, but also from the Scorpion G and the Kunzerpanzer. And that Scorpion G is very healthy at this stage. Wow, what a fight that was. That was just 8 minutes of non-stop World of Tanks action, and that's why I wanted to feature this replay. I love commentating and watching fantastic performances by fantastic players such as Y2 Durrell in that scenario. And what more satisfying thing is there in World of Tanks than just going on a little bit of a tour of the graveyard that you have created of the enemy team. But Y2 Durrell's got to watch out here. They've only got 4 armor-piercing rounds left, 2 APCR rounds, and 3 high-explosive rounds. And the high-explosive rounds on this vehicle are rather nice. They'll do significant damage to the artillery and the Scorpion G as long as they're able to penetrate with the 65mm of penetration that they have. Y2 Durrell looking a little bit tentative for the first time in this game. It's been all actions, guns blazing so far, but now Y2 Durrell is probably thinking, I've kind of got like a real close game here and a possibility for an epic round. Y2 Durrell, I checked this, hasn't ever managed to do 10,000 damage in World of Tanks. But not that that really means anything, it's not a big deal or anything, but just let's remember that they're going to be in a situation similar to what I was in my 60 TP, where they don't know exactly how much damage they dealt to the Moistion with that blind shell. But Y2 Durrell, calm down, mate. Don't miss a Scorpion. You've done all the hard work. You're going really close to the Scorpion. Maybe they'll be able to see you when you fire from this scenario. Also, are you worried about the artillery that's up on the hill above you? Oh my god, there they are. Y2 Durrell hits the Scorpion G for 605. Bombs it forwards to be able to avoid the M4043, and the SU-14-2 on their team shuts down the Scorpion G. So Y2 Durrell quite rightly changes from a high explosive round here to the 40, 43 optimal shell, which will be the armor-piercing rounds. Now Y2 up to 8,500 damage and change. I'd say they can be pretty sure they're on about 9,000 right now with that shell against the Moistion. So, 1,000 damage left to deal to try and reach that magical 10,000 mark. And there's 1,000 hit points on the enemy team. So Y2 finds the M40-43, the shell flies true, the Kunze-Panzer gets spotted on 500 hit points, locked in mortal combat with a UDES-16 and a VK-100-01P. But Y2 seems to be hell-bent on taking down Baby of Fire, playing the FV-3805 on the enemy team, that rather sneaky tier 9 British self-propelled gun. And when you're making your way towards the enemy base on the Mountain Pass map, you got to be careful because they could be anywhere. But Y2 low rolls for 429. No drama, please. Oh, thank goodness. Imagine rolling for minus 101, leaving the hit points on 21 on 21, and then what are you doing, Y2 Oh, this is controversial. Y2 is firing off the ammunition in their tank right now to try and, I guess, get a Faden's medal, knowing that the Kunze-Panzer is on 527 hit points. Well, Y2 remember, you've got 530 alpha damage on your vehicle, right? How many of these rounds are you going to fire into the dirt, dude? Because you've only got a 50-50 to be able to kill the Kunze-Panzer in a single shot. No way, Y2 now you've made it a 50-50 until the artillery manages to hit them. But ladies and gents, Y2 is on 9,410 damage. The Kunze-Panzer only has 38 left to give, and so all it comes down to now is Y2 actually losing nearly all their hit points there against the Kunze-Panzer at the end of the game. Did Y2 high roll their shell to be able to get 10,000 damage for the very first time in World of Tanks? I have to admit, Y2 hats off to you for this insane carry. But oh my goodness gracious, I wonder if you forgot how much alpha damage your tank has. You could have got a low roll on the Kunze-Panzer there and could have got shut down at the end of this game. Obviously, you had faith in the VK-100-01P back in the base. Mate, maybe the adrenaline was getting to you in that battle, but that was an incredibly risky thing to do. But I guess with great risk comes great reward. And in this case, it was an artificial Faden's medal for vanquishing the final tank with the final remaining shell. And so, drum roll please, ladies and gentlemen, was this high caliber 10,000 damage? Oh no! 9,993. Doesn't look like Y2 quite managed to high roll on that Moistion. 7 damage short to match the 7 kills they picked up in this battle, securing them a Top Gun, a cool headed medal for ricocheting 10 rounds in a row, a steel wall medal for ricocheting 6,680 damage, enough to destroy this tank 3 times over, a patrol duty, because they were the best scout on their team as well, right, with 3,600 assistance, and a Confederate medal in addition to those 7 kills, meaning that they damaged at least 6 tanks that were subsequently killed by their allies. And you know, when you've destroyed 7 tanks yourself and damaged 6 tanks apart from them that your allies killed, that you have had a huge game of World of Tanks. So Y2 left a lovely message. Greetings tankers, in this humble replay you will see the true power in brackets and weakness of the almighty Object 780 and a comeback from a game that seemed lost. This is a new damage record and experience record for me, so hopefully you will enjoy it as much as I did. Y2 thank you so much for sharing your awesome game with the World of Tanks community. I knew as soon as I saw it that it had all of the wonderful moments and lovely ups and downs, a roller coaster of drama that had me on the edge of my seat. And it was an absolute pleasure to check this one out and decide that I wanted to hopefully add some commentary worthy of such an epic game onto it. So Y2 thank you so much for uploading this on the What Replays website, and congratulations to you on smashing a new damage record and experience record. If you keep playing like this, I would love to say that it might not take you a long time to get 10,000 damage, but it kind of took me about 10 years. hopefully you managed to get it before then, buddy. And I hope that you don't get any more low rolls or bad moments to stop you from hitting that total. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this epic game of World of Tanks. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you have an Object 780, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.